Hey there, folks. Zach Smith, Plant Dude. What is this channel all about? Well, I go around the world as people do, looking out through my eyes, and I see a lot of stuff. Somebody called me, and what did they say? An ecstatic person who derives joy from seeing beautiful stuff. And, I was just telling somebody the other day, I think I look at every tree and I look at every cloud. Somehow this is just what I was wired to do. And when I first learned about arboriculture, tree care, I learned that there was certain things you ought not to do to a tree. Topping it, heading it back. Pollarding is a term that is misused for topping, or just big, broad, thick cuts of a tree at the upper limit of its height to shorten it. Don't shorten trees. That's the simple way to put it. And unfortunately, learning stuff sometimes allows you to see what's kind of bad, everywhere you go. And one thing that is visible everywhere you go is improper tree pruning. Now, why does this matter? I mean, it's a personal thing. I mean, I can give you some factual, like monetary. What's factual? Monetary? You want monetary reasons? Trees are worth a lot of money, okay? Especially if we're talking about trees in people's yards, in neighborhoods, parks, communities. Obviously, they're worth a lot of money in the forest as well. They're going to be logged or whatever. Hardwoods for fine cabinetry, etc., etc. But still, it comes back to the value of a tree is still in its essential aesthetic quality. Most people appreciate a tree from far away. Standing underneath the tree isn't going to give you a very good picture of the tree. But standing across the street and looking at the tree, see, they go up. They give us a three-dimensional perspective of our world. We live down here, somewhere between 4 feet and 6 feet tall. Most of us reside, and our cars are about 5 feet to 6 feet tall, give or take, and our houses might be 20 feet tall, give or take. And there's this whole sky above, and the birds are up there, and the birds are apart. They're separate. They're up there and they're separate. And the planes and the clouds are all up there. They're in the heavens, so to speak. And we people, we have this affinity for the heavens. Makes us have a certain kind of feeling. Lofty heights. Well, the trees bridge that gap. The trees reach up into those lofty heights. We can all envision what it would be like to climb up onto those tall trees, go out on that far limb and stand there, like when we get up on a tall building. Why the most expensive floors of a high-rise apartment are the top floors? Because there's something special about going up, and our eyes take us up with the tree. The tree draws us up. Trees have this sense of movement from ground to sky, and they function that way physiologically too. All right, they're bringing the nutrition from the soil up to the leaves. And so I think that the value of trees is so complex, but the part that I'm talking about here today is the aesthetic, the feeling, the view, the visual that evokes some feeling, some emotion. Now, not everybody, probably not everybody, gets an emotional charge out of seeing a tree. But like I'm looking around right now, it's winter. It's winter in the coast of California, where we get mild winters, and some of our eastern species are still just starting to turn red. It's January. So, wow, red fall color. People travel around to go see the fall color, right? Call them leaf peepers. And it's because it's freaking beautiful, and we feel some sort of feeling when we see something beautiful. Well, what I'm saying is that feeling, those feelings are available to us all the time for all different reasons. Trees have texture, they have color, they have directional movement, they have these senses of flow. They're artistic in their nature. They have symmetry, and they have, some are round and some are pointy, and we call that X current or D current growth, whatever. Some have multiple trunks, some have one strong central trunk, right? They have these patterns of repetition. There's like fractal imagery. The big trunk is covered with smaller branches, which are covered with smaller branches called twigs, which are covered with leaves. Everything is like reducing and repeating, right? These things we know. We know art has a lot of repetitive measurements in it. The golden ratio and such. The nautilus shell, right? These mathematical structures are in nature, and for some reason that really hits people. So, to see a tree pruned improperly is to break that natural structure. It disrupts the shape. It truncates it. It breaks the flow. And that's one reason improper pruning is bad. The other reason is that all these big wounds we create don't heal. The tree has an ability to ward off infection from fungus, but is not perfect. The bigger the wound, the harder the tree. I don't want to put anthropomorphic words on a tree. The walls of defense that a tree puts up are chemical in nature. It impregnates the wood around the wound with basically antifungal terpenes, chemicals, and that takes time. The fungus gets working on the new wound. Fungal spores are everywhere, all over, all the time, basically. The tree is trying to impregnate all those wood tissues around the wound with its compartmentalization products, and the fungus can go faster. The tree can be imperfect in warding off that infection, and now you have a potential heart rot fungus, a fungus that's going to infect and go down the branches. Also, wind, rain, snow often rips off new limbs that are grown after these hard cuts, because those new limbs grow a little extra fast and they're not deeply attached to the branch. They're very superficial branches. And we can go into a whole thing on that, but learning about taking care of trees taught me to see the improper care of trees, and that hurts because I didn't even know. I didn't know that the chopped up tree was struggling. I didn't know how to recognize the feelings that I had about big, healthy, beautiful trees until I started to become aware, to become conscious. This consciousness grew in me as I started to understand the dichotomy. And I started to come into this connection to ancient evolutionary nature of, well, these plants grew this way for over a really long, hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years, to become ever more perfect. And my idea of perfect may not be what is perfect. Like when I'm pruning a tree to make it better, I may be operating on assumptions, and the tree might be perfect, and I may misunderstand perfect. So there's a lot of fun philosophical introspection that I have found stems from learning about trees, learning about horticulture, learning about, horticulture, sorry, I got fuzz on my face. Horticulture and agriculture are basically people's manipulation of plants. for purposes, right? For food or for looks. And way back in the day, people started to understand you could keep seeds and plant those seeds, and you could manipulate plants, and you could manipulate your source of food, right? Birth of civilization, all that. And yet that wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme. So, you know, what does it say to me when I'm looking at a forest and I'm appreciating the many things, the feelings that I get about being in a forest or looking upon a forest, maybe from an airplane? There's deep stuff going on with feelings, with interpretation, that our logic center, which is very, ego language based, is saying, yeah, you like it because of the things you learned about aesthetics and directional movement and, vanishing point and all the art stuff, all the math stuff. If you've geeked out as a kid on all the, discovery and the science shows and the nature shows like I did. It's like, oh, well, now we can explain it all. The reason that you feel so good when you're in a forest is because of all these reasons. The big one that I've been really tripping on lately is the nuanced subtlety of the emotional response. In my studies of being a person, I've come to learn and appreciate that we have a complex language of nonverbal emotions, feelings, imagery, symbols. Been studying a little Carl Jung, then doing some poking around in the occult-esque side of science, right? And there's plenty of great minds that have elaborated upon the nonverbal, the non-dominant parts of the brain, the part of us that dreams. See, this is all related to horticulture, and I'm going to bring it all back around, because when we have all these feeling charged images in our life, it's what comes out when we draw or we write or we paint or we build or we craft. It just comes out, right? We can explain to ourselves all the reasons we drew that river and that mountain doodling in our notebook, but what I'm learning is that's just an explanation put on by the intellect. We had that in us. And when we manipulate the landscape, putting the trees and the plants and the colors and all the things, we're expressing some deep part of ourself. All the artists were expressing some deep part of themselves. All these storytellers in the books were expressing a deep part of themselves. I am saying that a landscape architect and a great author of fantasy are very close in what they're trying to do. They're trying to get something that's alive in them, this part of the body, out to the world to see, for them to view themselves. So the way we decorate our home, the way we decorate our yard, the way we decorate our Christmas tree, the way we do the things we do, the cars we buy, what speaks to us is us seeing the deepest parts of ourselves outside of us. So we don't want to see a butchered frickin' tree unless we're butchered inside, and we want to see it all burn. We want to see it all in ruination. When we're grimy and angry and infested with resentment, maybe we like to see a tree get chopped down. Maybe we watch videos of lumberjacks just chopping trees down because that feels good. Break it all down, destroy it, manage it, own it, have control. But more often than not, people don't go buy bouquets of dead flowers. they buy bouquets of fresh flowers. And they hope those flowers will stay as fresh as they can, as long as they can, because a flower is perfect. It's perfect to you and me and the bees. Horticulture evokes emotions, feelings, and a vision into our deeper self. And healthy, beautiful trees with all their wonderful nature in their perfect way allows us to see our perfection. And we don't even know it. And it doesn't matter, because we go about our day feeling a little bit better than we wouldn't have been if there was only butchered, nasty, dead trees around. And that is my plant dude soapbox for the day of why we should be better arborists, pruning our trees with better conscientious effort, and to know not only the tree's value monetarily, but the tree's value aesthetically and by connection emotionally. Peace out.